A new role that has recently emerged in the tech sector is the machine learning engineer. Now, most people confuse a data scientist with a machine learning engineer. However, there is quite a wide distinction, which is exactly what I'll explain in this video. Let's get into it. Let's start by explaining what a data scientist is. As I've been working as a data scientist for over 3 years, I think I'm adequately placed to explain to you exactly what they do. Data science is a broad term nowadays, and at different companies, a data scientist will do different things. So it's quite ambiguous, and this is something I frequently complain about. A data scientist at one company may be doing analytical work, metric setting, whereas a data scientist at another company may be doing model building and model deployment. So it varies quite a lot, so I really recommend that you read the job description because that'll give you a clear picture of exactly what you'll be doing in your role. However, generally, as a data scientist, you can expect to do a mixture of modeling and analytical work and be quite close to the business side of things. This would involve finding potential opportunities by speaking to managers, stakeholders, and driving product roadmaps for where you think these opportunities lie in. I personally like to think of data scientists as a linchpin of the tech and business side. From this diagram, a data scientist will generally do the first 4 stages. They will first start by finding some sort of business problem, issue, inefficiency, whatever it may be, and try and convert that problem into some sort of algorithmic or data science solution. They will then see if there's data to support building any model, doing some analysis, etc. If there is no data for the problem they're trying to solve, then this makes it very hard, and then we have to go about trying to get that data, which is often not a data scientist's job, but a data engineer's. If we have the data, it's then time for some explanatory data analysis. What this generally means is just looking at the data, trying to find trends, patterns, insights, just anything that's really obvious and interesting that could really help the business problem and also the model. Finally, a data scientist will build a POC model to measure any potential initial value. Something missing from this diagram is that frequent communication and frequent collaboration with senior stakeholders. Data scientists need to be very good with their communication skills because, like I said, they're talking about technical topics to normally non-technical people. And you'll frequently be discussing your project, updates, what you're doing, etc. with these stakeholders. And like I said, they're non-technical, so you've got to have good communication skills to clearly explain what you're doing. Again, these workflows will kind of change per company, and typically the bigger the company, the more kind of hard cut and established roles are. So in a large company, you would expect to be doing only data science work. However, if you're a smaller company, like a startup, you can expect to be more of a full stack data scientist. What this means is that not only will you be doing modeling, analytical work, you'll probably be building data pipelines, maybe doing some front end, things like that. You'll be doing the whole kind of tech job as a whole. And again, this varies per company, so make sure you read the job description. If you are interested in becoming a full stack data scientist, then I recommend this article, which I'll link on screen here, which will give you kind of a better breakdown of exactly what it involves. Data scientists and machine learning engineers work very closely, and in fact they overlap in certain areas. However, the main distinction is that machine learning engineers are primarily responsible for model deployment and model monitoring. I have seen it so many times in industry where a data scientist or just some data professional will build a POC model in a Jupyter notebook or in some kind of real POC state. However, that model, even though its accuracy may be terrific, is useless to the business because it's not making any live decision making. And to do that, you need machine learning engineers to help turn that POC model into a productionized system so that it can actually benefit and generate value for the business, because that's essentially what you're paid to do. Machine learning engineers literally bring the model to life. But to do this, not only do they need to be really well versed in data science, modeling, etc., they also need to understand all the best practices and principles around software engineering and how to deploy things using cloud systems, Docker, APIs, all that things that software engineers are pretty good at. So you kind of need to be good in loads of areas to be a machine learning engineer. From the diagram we saw earlier, machine learning engineers are responsible for the last 3 stages of that process. So they will oftentimes help the data scientist build the POC model because they have that machine learning and algorithm knowledge. They will then transfer that POC model into production. This can vary per company exactly how this works, but normally you'll deploy it in some sort of cloud system like AWS, Azure, or GCP, using software engineering best principles. And finally, after the model has been deployed to production, they will frequently monitor it to make sure there's nothing weird going on and it's performing as we expect. In terms of model production, this can be broken down further. So a machine learning engineer will find ways to optimize the model. This can be either through algorithmic performance or generally like the compute efficiency of the model. They will consider the best way to deploy the model. Like I said, this could be either through AWS, using things like SageMaker, GCP, Azure, Docker. All these kind of skill sets are all things they have to consider and decide on what's the best way that this model should go into production. They will then have to do model testing, so building unit test, CI/CD pipelines, and maybe even some sort of live A/B or shallow testing. And finally, I touched upon this before, but things like containerization. So making sure the model, using things like Docker, Kubernetes, can be run in multiple platforms using containers. All this said, machine learning engineers aren't purely responsible for the deployment side. They will oftentimes do research, trying to find ways to improve the model, like a data scientist would. So there is quite an overlap, particularly in that kind of initial model building stage, because both positions have quite good knowledge on how to build algorithms and all that machine learning theory that is kind of unilateral across those two roles. Another thing to note is that machine learning engineer roles are generally harder to get, and this is for a few reasons. The first one is that there is just less or fewer machine learning engineer positions out there. This is because only really established tech companies or companies which are really tech focused will offer machine learning engineer roles, whereas data scientists are kind of in every industry, in every company. Secondly, to become a machine learning engineer, you'll normally need a couple of years experience as a data scientist or a software engineer. It's not really an entry-level position that you can get into right after university. And finally, piggybacking on my previous point, to become a machine learning engineer, you need to be well versed both in data science, statistics, and also software engineering. So this is why you need a couple of years experience in either role. So that way you're kind of good across the whole board. Because machine learning engineer is actually quite a wide role for a really wide skill set. Let's quickly run over the key differences using this table which I'll show on screen here. A data scientist will normally build POC models, whereas a machine learning engineer will generally deploy that model into production. Data scientists will frequently do analyses, and machine learning engineers will try and look for ways to optimize the model. Both jobs require an understanding of statistics and also machine learning skills. However, the data scientists will kind of need more communication and like that soft business side, whereas machine learning engineer will rely more on their software engineering skills, and that's kind of a key distinction between both camps. In terms of technical skills, this table will show you the key differences. A data scientist will use Python, R, and SQL, and a machine learning engineer will also use Python, SQL, but also other languages like Rust, C++, more high performance ones, which may benefit in certain model deployment actions. Both jobs will require knowledge of things like Git, AWS, GCP, etc. But machine learning engineer will need to know more stuff about the command line, like Linux, Bash, containerization through things like Docker and Kubernetes, whereas the data scientist will probably need to know more stuff about data, the data lake, things like that. Now, obviously, these aren't hard and fast rules, and like I said so many times, it really varies per company, on exact industry, on exactly the skill sets, coding languages that you will use as a machine learning engineer or data scientist. But generally, you can expect these guidelines to be mostly representative, but again, make sure you really check the job description to ensure you understand what you're signing up for. If you enjoyed this video and you want more data science advice like this, then make sure you check out my weekly newsletter, Dishing the Data. I send it every Monday morning, and it's all about my thoughts and experiences as a practicing data scientist. If that sounds interesting, I'll leave a link in the description below for you to check it out.